Attorney General Sessions, if you would stand, I will administer the oath to you. Raise your right hand, if you would, please. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated.
Well, one thing I thought was significant was that he essentially tried to assert executive privilege while saying at the same time that he couldn't assert executive privilege because that privilege belongs to President Trump and not to himself. So I thought that was very significant because he was refusing to answer certain questions of the senators without really a legal basis or a clear legal basis for why he didn't have to answer.
What is the legal basis for your refusal to answer these questions?
I am protecting the right of the president to assert it if he chooses, and there may be other privileges that could apply in this circumstance.
Well, I don't understand how you can have it both ways. The president can't not assert it, and you've testified that only the president can assert it, and yet I just don't understand the legal basis for your refusal to answer.
Well, it'd be premature for me to deny the president a full and intelligent choice about executive privilege. So much of this is
so the main thing I think of that it opens them up to potentially is contempt of Congress, which is actually a crime in the United States Code. It actually has a minimum jail sentence of 1 month. Jail sentence is 1 to 12 months. It's obviously very, very rare for someone to actually be prosecuted for committing that crime, but it has happened before. And Congress has sort of voted to say that someone is in contempt of Congress numerous times, but it would be up to probably the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia to actually charge someone with contempt if Congress voted to hold them in contempt. And obviously that person's boss is Jeff Sessions, so there's some potential conflicts there.
General Sessions, respectfully, you're not answering the question.
Well, what is the question?
The question is, Mr. Comey said that there were matters with respect to the recusal that were problematic and he couldn't talk about them. What are they?
Why don't you tell me? There are none, Senator Wyden. There are none. I can tell you that for absolute certainty.
He repeatedly refused to answer questions about whether he knew that President Trump's real motive for firing Comey was the motive that he admitted on national television, that he wanted the Russia investigation to go away, or he was concerned about the political pressure that that investigation puts on him. Sessions kept refusing to answer questions about whether he knew about that, whether he ever had conversations with Trump about that. If he did, then clearly you know, it would be something he should recuse himself from, the firing of Comey. Some people would argue he should have recused himself from that decision anyway, even if he wasn't sure what Trump's full motives were, just given, you know, the gravity of the investigation and that sort of thing.
More question. I asked former FBI director whether your role in firing him.
Do you have confidence in Director Mueller's ability to conduct his investigation fairly and impartially?
Well, first, I don't know about these reports and have no basis to ascertain their validity. I have known Mr. Mueller over the years. He served 12 years as FBI director. I knew him before that, and I have confidence in Mr. Mueller.
So you have confidence he can do his job?
But I'm not going to discuss any hypotheticals or what might be a factual situation in the future that I'm not aware of today, because I know nothing about the investigation.
Do you believe?
Fully recused
I've got a series of questions, sir.
That I undertake, and so.
I mean, I think that would only sort of increase the drumbeat towards impeachment. I think anyone advising him would probably advise him not to do that. Because it would really just clearly seem like obstruction of justice at that point and undue interference. I already think his firing of Comey and his admitted reason for it is pretty horrible and shows a real lack of disrespect for the independence of the Department of Justice. But if he fired Mueller, that would just increase it even more, certainly.
Much of this is
Did you have any communications with Russian officials for any reason during the campaign that have not been disclosed in public or to this committee?
I don't recall it.
I think in general, it can be hard for people to remember certain conversations. I understand that. But given that he said he didn't have any of these contacts in his confirmation hearing, it turned out he had some, and he's now revising that and correcting all of that, right? I would think that now his recollection should be somewhat refreshed. He could, and I think that's why Senator Harris, for instance, was really questioning him about what documents he had, and a number of other senators were asking him to provide documents to the committee because he might have notes he took of his meetings. He might at least have calendars that show when he had various meetings, what the purpose of those meetings was, who else attended that event at the Mayflower Hotel with him.